So predominantly when we start talking with a university or college about Read and Write Gold, usually it starts with a discussion about the students coming in as freshmen and really the difference from high school to college. And what we mean there is in high school you have a certain amount of reading that you do, but in college oftentimes that amount, it's a greater amount. And in terms of what you're reading, the complexity of the text is much greater. So you're reading twice as much, it's twice as difficult, and that's a big challenge that a lot of college students face going from high school to college, but certainly there's a lot more that we need to address today. But this is kind of a typical conversation that we have. What happens then is someone who's in Sherry's position in disability services says, well, we've got a lot of these types of text that the students are encountering, whether it's web-based, so that might be your Blackboard, or textbook, or simply coursework that's handed out or emailed to students. And really what happens is in Sherry's department, they need to say, well, how can we make these accessible to students who might have a learning disability or a physical disability? But we know that there are more needs throughout Valpo and every other college than just those types of disabilities, but that becomes something that really is a challenge for the disability services and access centers. So what our solutions basically do, looking from a student's perspective, is increasing comprehension, particularly if a student has a learning disability or possibly speaks another language natively, increasing reading speeds, duration, and also writing efficiency. And we do this by providing anywhere, anytime access to all this text, and we'll show you what that means in a few moments. From Sherry's perspective, what happens a lot of times is universities will adopt something like a more proprietary program. A popular one would be something like a Kurzweil, which is a great program, but there's a lot of prep that goes into it. So they would be having to scan a lot of these PDFs into a new format, which we basically call media production. It's a lot of work. With Read and Write Gold, you don't really have to do any of that pre-work. You can just open something up on your computer and go. But also from the technology side, really from Becky's department, the second last bullet there, reducing the amount of technologies you manage. Oftentimes these days, colleges come to us and say, we've got 5 or 6 different programs that we're using to support our students, and they look at Read and Write Gold and say, you guys have it all in one program. We'd much rather deal with one program pushing that out than 5 or 6. So it makes it a lot easier from the deployment side of things. So how we make these things happen, we combine a lot of tools like text-to-speech, word prediction, different types of dictionaries, writing tools, organizational tools, and we integrate them into the native formats that the students are opening up anyway. So whether it's through Blackboard or Microsoft Word, we allow these types of tools to be used so that students can access it easily. Now, as Becky said, we have 2 that we're going to look at today, 2 different platforms, we'd call them. The desktop one is our main platform. That's what we've had out for about 15 years. Our cloud platform, which is basically taking our desktop tools and embedding them specifically into Google Drive and for any college or campus that's using Google, which Valpo is. And then thirdly, we do have an iPad app that's used by students who struggle predominantly with writing and reading. We're not going to look at that today, but if that's of interest, I will be able to forward on some information to Becky and to Sherry from here. But we're going to look and concentrate first at the desktop version. Any questions so far? Did everybody leave? All I hear is bells.
Go ahead.
Processing, good. So a quick overview of what Read and Write Gold is before we just launch it and start using it. It's a toolbar, a software toolbar that's loaded up on a computer that integrates with other applications. And if you see each one of these little icons across there is going to help students with either reading, writing, organizing, or researching. And the key thing there is independently. So where a lot of students are right now going to the writing center or getting some help meeting face-to-face, there are a lot of tools that they can have on their own computer that will help in those same ways, but without having to walk somewhere or meet with someone. And that independence is such a big piece of what Read and Write Gold is and does. So your students on a daily basis come across Microsoft Word, obviously using the internet, PDF files. Read and Write Gold integrates with those, as well as something like Blackboard, or even social networking sites like Facebook. There's a lot of tools that can be used with that as well. but to give you an idea, we basically work with anything that a student brings up on his or her computer. And I wanted just to jump into a couple different areas right now. Are there a few people there, Becky, that that represent the ESL population or international program?
One from Interlink.
From Interlink, very good. And you forward me Interlink, so basically I have a pretty good idea of what that is. But what you're going to see today in terms of supporting those people who are speaking other languages and learning here in English, comprehension, we do have some translation tools. We have visual translation tools as well, vocabulary tools and writing. And really, when you're looking at mastering or being able to communicate effectively in English, all four of those steps, the listening, speaking, reading, and writing, there are tools that help students in all of those steps to mastery. So that's one area that you're going to see today. Also, I know that there's some folks there that are involved with writing in particular. Everything from brainstorming to the actual writing of the text and then reviewing it. There are tools that we're going to see today that are going to help in that aspect. And we hear quite often that these types of tools are the same things that students are doing when they're reporting to the success centers or to the writing centers. This just allows them to do it on their own computer. And I think the last two to look at, the student retention here. So the national college dropout rate, 40%. I assume Valpo is lower than that. But the main reasons, the research states ability, time, money. And really with the ability and time, that's where Read and Write Gold come in. We can help with those two immensely. And that's what we'll be showing you today. And lastly, I think, was there someone that's here today from athletics, Becky?
Yes. Yes,
Good.
Kathy Marlowe's here. Yeah.
Great. So we've seen probably in the last 3 years or so an uptick, a big uptick in a lot of colleges and universities that adopt Read and Write Gold. The athletic department almost never is part of that decision or even knows that it's coming in. But once they have the tool, a lot of the tools on Read and Write Gold help with those athletic lifestyles where students are on the go a lot. Probably the most popular one we hear or feedback from is maybe this top picture here of students that will take some of their text, and because they're going to be working out a lot or training or running, they will just turn it into an audio file and then listen to it as they're running or as they're working out or doing whatever it is. So it's those types of tools that really benefit that group as well. So I'm very glad that you're here as well today to look at those. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump into the demonstration. You have a sheet that looks like this. If you would want to bring that out now, what we're going to do is kind of start at the top there. Start with the reading tools of the toolbar, and those are the ones that are in the middle. Then we'll go to the writing tools, which are kind of on the left-hand side, and then the research and study tools that are on the right-hand side. Okay, any questions so far?
Nope.
Okay. So what I'm going to do right now is you can see I've just got basically my desktop up. I'm going to click on my Read and Write Gold icon down here in my tray, and you're going to see it's going to pop up. And we call this kind of a floating toolbar. So I can grab the toolbar, and if I want, I can place it on the right-hand side. I could put it on the left-hand side if I wanted to. I can't put it at the bottom because that's Microsoft's turf, and we're a Microsoft Gold partner, but I don't think we pay them enough money to take over down there. So most students are just going to put it up at the top, and if you notice, as soon as I put it at the top there, it docked itself. Now before I go in and just start showing you what some of these tools are, I do want to point out you can undock it if need be. And when I do have it docked here and I hover over some of these tools, it'll basically tell me what the tool is. And that helps me to identify it. But if I want to know a little bit more about each tool, the nice part here is, and this is what so many college students report back to us, that makes it so easy for them to use this program, is you can click on the drop-down menu, and the very bottom selection is always going to be a video tour. So if I don't know what this icon is, I can click on the Watch Screenshot Reader Video Tour, and you're going to see it'll be a little 3 to 4 minute video that comes up, shows me what the tool is and how to use it. So it's kind of having the professional development built right into the software itself.
Screenshot Reader. Most text in any Windows application can be easily read using Read and Write Gold. However, There are some.
I'm going to pause it there, but it just gives you an idea. All you really have to do is click on it and it's going to show up. So that's been a really helpful tool for many college students to be able to use Read and Write Gold and explore some of the other tools there. Any questions about the video tours or the toolbar itself?
Nope.
Okay. The last piece before we jump into the buttons is on the right-hand side here, you have this text help button, and then you have a drop-down that allows you to change a lot of the options. And the options being the aesthetics, really, of the toolbar and how it's going to operate. So on the right-hand side here, if I'm somebody who might be visually impaired, I can make the icons up here much larger with the text underneath them. I can change what these actual icons look like, and I won't go too much into that, but to let you know it's customizable. And also, if I'm somebody that doesn't need to have all these tools, because most people don't, I can actually eliminate tools and have just the tools up here that I need by checking or unchecking the corresponding boxes. So you'll see here, there's my little prediction tool. When I uncheck it, that disappears. So I can really just have the 5 or 6 tools that I need that help me up here. So that just gives you an idea of how you can customize the toolbar. So what we'll do now is we'll start with the top of that sheet you're looking at with the reading and comprehension tools. And probably the most popular tools on Read and Write Gold have to do with the text-to-speech. Not only because they are so helpful, but because they're so easy to use. So here I am. I'm using my Chrome web browser, but I could be using any number of browsers. Chrome just happens to be kind of the browser of choice. Becky, do you find that a lot of students at Valpo are using Chrome as a browser?
When they're in the lab, yeah, because that's the one that we recommend on campus since it works well with Google Apps.
Because you're a Google campus, so yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So if I'm somebody who struggles with reading or comprehension, or possibly I speak a different language natively, I can just look at some text here, and very simply I can click on this green play button. And what's going to happen when I click on the green play button, 2 things you're going to notice. One, you're going to hear the text-to-speech. We've got some really great voices. They've come a long way in the last 3 or 4 years. You're going to hear it read this passage aloud, but you're also going to see it highlight the passage, highlight the sentence as it's going through, and highlight a different color the word it's reading at the time. And I'll explain why that's so beneficial in a moment. But let me press the green play button now. You probably can't hear it, can you? Because for whatever reason, it is not reading from there right now. Let me just redo this really quickly. There we go.
Patterns in Arctic weather and climate. The map of sea level pressure for October 1st to 30, 2010, shows a high-pressure system centered over the Beaufort and Chukchi Sea and...
I'm going to pause it right there. First of all, Becky or Sherry or anybody there, can you hear that voice coming through okay?
Yes.
And you can see the highlighting as well?
Yes.
Now, the one thing that may be happening because of the nature of the webinar is sometimes it might be a little bit slower, the visual aspect of it, but on my computer it's basically highlighting in blue the word that it's reading at that time. And why that's important is that research I mentioned that can really increase a student's comprehension is tied to not just the read aloud piece, but it's the fact that it's highlighting the word as it reads it, and it's that bimodal nature of getting that audio and visual feedback at the exact same time that helps kind of break down in some ways like that dyslexic code, or helps students to track along with the word that's being read at the time. And so it's very beneficial, not just for somebody who might have dyslexia or just a comprehension issue, but also for somebody who is not as familiar with the English language. So before I move on with this, what questions do you have about this read aloud here?
Can you demonstrate any other voices?
I sure can. That's a great question. Next to this green play button, if you look down here, there's a lot of different options I can change. We won't go too much into this right now, but it's very customizable. The speech options here, though, this is the one that I believe I've written on your sheet as well. This is where you go where you can change the voices, and we've got many voices to choose from that you could listen to and test out.
This is your new voice. Is it okay?
I tend to choose some of the U.S. voices. Some people like to use the international voices, which can be kind of fun. They work really well when a student is actually, let's say, a German-speaking student and they want to hear some German read kind of comfortably. Or if there are people that are exploring other languages and learning other languages, it's nice to have one that'll read that with a fluent voice. So there's a lot that you can change back and forth between here. Here, I'll just give you an example. So there's our Italian voice, but it's going to sound much better if you're reading Italian with it. So you kind of see some of these are better for international, some of them are better just for reading English. You can also change the pitch and the speed. So to sound like a younger person, you can make it a higher pitch. You can slow down the speed if need be as well. So you can kind of make it and adjust it to something that's comfortable for you.
This is your new voice. Is it okay?
Now I've had some people that'll really kind of slow this down.
This is your new voice. Is it okay?
I know, it sounds like Ava's drunk, so that might not be optimum to slow it down that much. So what we sometimes add, we've actually added this in for that purpose. There's a word pause. So for some students, and this is a little difficult for the average person to listen to, but some students need a little bit of break in between each word to process it.
This is your new voice. Is it okay?
So I'm going to get rid of that, but just to let you know, there's a lot of flexibility, not just with the actual voice itself, but you can also edit how it says somebody's last name phonetically, and you can also edit how it's going to read in the document. Right now, it's reading directly from the web page, but if I'm somebody who's visually impaired, let's say, and I need to have something blown up, I can choose this option here to speak in a text reader. I can blow it up to a larger font size, and now when I grab some text to read,
the unique geography of the Arctic leads to unique weather patterns that
you'll see there it opens up into a new window, and it's much larger. And you can also, if you want, you can turn off that blue and yellow highlighting. Some people don't want anybody to know that they're having something read aloud, or they just don't want to be distracted by that. They just want to have the read aloud without it. So you can turn that off as well. So it's very customizable for the user. And the nice thing is it's tied to the user's computer. So if I'm on my computer and I'm using this here, however I save my toolbar or save my settings, when I shut down my computer and open it up again, those settings are going to remain there. So I don't have to keep resetting them. Does that answer the question about changing the voices?
That and more, yeah.
Oh, good. Good. So that's how we can read on the internet. The other way you can do it is I've got set here to read the web. For some students that maybe don't want to click so much and drag a box around it,
Arctic weather and climate.
I can just basically hover over a word or a sentence and it'll start reading it this way.
Some weather patterns, such as cyclones or anticyclones.
And that's good because some students, if they come across possibly some, some of these blue hyperlinks over here, you don't want to click on those to try and highlight them. It'll just read those without having to click them. So let me go into a different environment here. This is the internet. We read that very simply, very easily. If I'm somebody who is maybe typing something inside of Microsoft Word, I can have my Microsoft Word document read back to me, and this is a very popular thing for students, to listen to their words read back instead of having someone else print it, read it, something like that. So here, again, I just click on the play button, and it's going to read it out loud.
Reduce, reuse, recycle ways I can save the environment. Consumer product companies are always selling us a new bill of goods.
So you can hear there, I can have it proofread and I can listen to my work. Sometimes we don't hear the fact that we put the 2 times in a row because our eyes don't pick it up because we're the ones that typed it into there. So this is a great way to have yourself hear what you've written. And this is one of those things where when students go to a writing center, sometimes they're just having somebody else listen to their work to see if it kind of sounds normal. This is a very popular way that students on their own can listen to that work. Any questions here? Okay, let's get into the tough stuff. And by tough stuff, I mean let's go to like PDFs because I assume a lot of you work with students or your students are encountering PDFs a lot. And this is another big reason why people like to use Read and Write Gold. This is a digitized version of a textbook in PDF format. And so as I open up this textbook here on my computer, we have built-in tools right in to the Adobe Reader that allow me just to basically grab some text, and if I want to have it read aloud, I can just click on the play button.
Full stop. Capital B. Blood is the river of life that surges within us, transporting nearly everything that must be carried from one place to another. Long before modern medicine, blood was viewed as magic.
So it's very simple for somebody that has a PDF version of a textbook to just open it up and have it read aloud for them. So any questions about this read aloud directly from a PDF?
No questions, just an observation that I find it interesting that it's not just, you know, blah, 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 monotone. It follows kind of the up and down inflections that you would hear in normal speech.
Yeah, and it hasn't always been that way. I see in the last few years, in fact, Nuance is the company that creates our voices for us. If you're familiar with Nuance, they are the ones that create like Dragon Naturally Speaking, and they've come a long way with their voices just in the past 2 years. So these voices that you hear are actually made specifically for Text Help and our Read and Write family of products. One thing also about getting to a PDF, and I guess I should ask this now, Jody, you're the one that oversees the Blackboard, is that correct?
Yes.
So when students come across Blackboard content, what type of file formats do they come across? In other words, you know, they log in from either their computer at home or at school, and they come up with coursework. What format is that in?
We usually do Word or PDF.
Okay.
You're talking about like handouts and things that instructors might post, right?
Correct, yeah.
Right.
And is there some internet, I mean, is there HTML as well?
There can be. A lot more, I would say that instructors post a lot more of their own material through Microsoft. So Word, PDF, PowerPoint, and some Excel in there.
Good. Now, one of the things that we've noticed, and we hear this a lot from colleges when we're looking at something like this, I've shown you how we can read all those formats already. But when you come across some formats that professors post up there, they're not always accessible. And what I mean by that is two things. One, here is something that a professor, and we got this from a college in Ohio last year, I believe. This is something that you know, a student found on their, I think it was maybe Moodle site, but same type of thing as Blackboard. And this is something that the professor used that they just kind of scanned, but you can see, I'd call this kind of a dirty document. I mean, there's a lot of handwritten things here. It's not very clean. There's some squiggly, there's some words written on here, so there's some underlining. Is this something that your students come across?
Yes, there may be some of that.
So this is where it starts to get kind of challenging, because not only is there handwriting all over this, but this is what we call an image-based document. And usually on tools like Blackboard, even though a teacher's put in a PDF, it doesn't mean that you're going to be able to open up our text reader and read it out loud. So here, if I try and, remember last time I showed you I just highlighted the text, I can't highlight the text here because this is what you call an image document. In other words, this is just kind of like a picture. And that's what a lot of students run into when they're using Blackboard is these aren't exactly accessible versions of Word or PDF. They've got to find another way to have this thing read aloud. So what we have built in, there's a tool here called Screenshot Reader, and this is next to that play button on your sheet. I'll give you a better example here. Here is a picture that I took with my camera a couple years ago. And this is basically an image. It's a JPEG file. I got closer to this little plaque here, and I took a picture. But again, this is just a JPEG file. My computer has no idea there's words here, so when I try and like grab the text, I can't. Because my computer just sees this is some reddish tint with some, you know, some yellow symbols. So we have built this tool that's kind of the backup tool. If you ever come across text that can't be read or you can't grab it, you can use what we call the Screenshot Reader. And this is a lifesaver for students when they're coming across coursework on PDF format or like in Blackboard or Moodle or something where they can't grab the text to have a text reader use it. You can click on this, and now when I pull a box around whatever my eyeballs can see, when I let go of it here, you're going to see it's going to do a quick scan, and it's going to find all those letters and numbers and then put them together as words and read it out loud for me with that highlighting.
Captain John Palliser was able to carry out his project of making a scientific exploration of western British North America in 18...
So I can pause it right there, but this allows any student on the fly, whatever they're looking at on their computer screen, if the green play button won't work, you can use that Screenshot Reader. It'll instantly grab it and read it out loud. So any questions about that type of tool?
That's amazing. It's not a
Was that you, Jody?
Yes, it was.
So why is that amazing?
Oh, because we have people who come in all the time with things like this that if we have no other way of taking this and making it into an accessible document. So that, for me, is just fabulous.
Good. So I'll go back to this example here where, okay, a PDF that a student might find on Blackboard, you can use that same tool here to be able to grab it and just grab some text where I can't access this right now, but if I just pull a box, it'll read it.
Examine the consequences of these conclusions for the nature and shape of an environmental.
So you're right, that makes it very simple, and I think the whole key here is I don't have to scan anything, I just use this different button to read it. Another neat thing that we can do is, if I wanted to, grab this and make it accessible but edit it inside of Word. Watch what happens now. I've changed the setting just a little bit, but now when I grab this text, it's going to scan it, but instead of read it aloud, it converts it into Microsoft Word, so now it's actually accessible and I can use it, type it, edit it, whatever I want.
And it eliminates the underlining?
Let's see what it does with that. That's a good question. There's some underlining. I kept it in there. So
Easy enough to remove.
yeah, you could definitely remove it. The other thing you could do, if students have the ability, they could save this document. Do they have the ability, Jody, to save a PDF that's on Blackboard to their own computer?
Yes.
So the nice thing is there are built-in scanning tools. If a student wanted to do that, they could use the ability to scan from a file, which they have in their computer, so this would be a file, be inaccessible PDF, to a new PDF that is OCR scanned. And by OCR, I mean optical character recognition, which means if I had done this, and I did this before we started the demo here, it takes about 30 seconds for me to download this onto my computer and then reload it with Read and Write Gold. But what it does is, you'll see here, this is the same document, but I've run it through our converter. Now I can use those tools that I mentioned before I couldn't use if I wanted to just grab this and have it read aloud.
182, Chapter 3, Constructing an Environmental.
Let me go ahead over here where this is right here.
My introduction. I end the present PER. I address the question of whether there must be a distinctively environmental ethic. Discussions of this question in the literature. 1. Have equated a negative answer with the belief that the standard category.
So it's not perfect, but that's because this is a pretty dirty document and it's not perfectly typed in there. It's not like using a Word file, but it does a really nice job of making this accessible and have it read aloud without having to pull the box all the time. I've just made a new PDF on my desktop that now is completely accessible. Good, Jody?
Very good.
Good. Good. This is usually something that I'm glad to have, somebody that uses Blackboard a lot or administrates that to see this, because it really does make it simple. So at this point, I'll ask any other questions about the read aloud capabilities of Read and Write Gold.
Doesn't look like it.
Okay. And that's, as I said, probably the most popular tools on Read and Write Gold are the read aloud. That's why I spend a lot of time going over them. We're going to go through the rest of these kind of read aloud capabilities here now. And then we'll get into the writing and study and productivity. So let me move from this document here. I'm going to go back out onto the internet. And as I come across words here that maybe I don't know, like geography or something like that, again, this could be someone who's a lower level student or a lower level reader, or it could be somebody who doesn't speak English natively. We have two different types of dictionaries that can help someone here. When I click on the first dictionary tool, it has gone and looked up geography for me, but it'll also read that aloud to me in English.
1. Study of the Earth's surface includes people's responses to topography and climate and soil and vegetation.
So I have that kind of built-in dictionary that also will read to me what the definition is. Now the second one that happens to be more popular with the ESL students, particularly at the college level, and we've got a lot of community colleges that have a lot of different language-speaking students there. It really doesn't matter what their language is if you start using what's called the picture dictionary. What the picture dictionary does is it just sits on your screen here, and anything that I double-click on or grab with my mouse, it's going to give me a visual for that. So as I go through here, Arctic, it defines that for me. Oscillation, it'll do that. So I guess it doesn't have one for that. Yeah. Perfect. So as I go through here, I can get kind of a really simple way of learning what that word is. But again, imagining if there's somebody who speaks Chinese in a classroom, you've also got someone who speaks Russian in there. They don't have to necessarily have it translated or read aloud. They can just look here and get an understanding from these pictures. And these pictures are meant to be used by people who struggle with language, whether it's because of a disability or because they're speaking a different language. So it's really helpful on the fly to have that there. And this is the one oftentimes when a college adopts Read and Write Gold, this is a very, very popular one that ESL communities and international programs pick up on.
Okay, now I'm interested.
Now!
I'm from the Language Resource Center, and so I'm not dealing with international students struggling to become proficient in English, but Americans who are struggling to become proficient in French, German, Spanish, so on and so forth, Chinese, Japanese. So what is the extent of your language support for other languages in terms of all of these kinds of tools?
Well, that's a good question. I'll skip down on your sheet right there. We just did the talking and picture dictionaries. I'll come back to screen masking in a moment, but let me go to the translator right now, and I will show you that. So there is a translator tool here that we've got about 62 different languages that you can translate back and forth between. So let's say here I am using English. I can take English, and I've got these 62 different languages. I've got it set right now for Chinese. So if I wanted to have this English converted to Chinese, I basically click on it, or I highlight it, and then I click on the translator, and you're going to see it's going to open up a new tab, and it has translated this.
Okay, well now you may have lost me because we're not huge fans of direct translators, but what I was interested in is, can you take a French website or a French text, highlight it, and get, the picture dictionary, so we're eliminating, the English. We have, the French word for weather, and then we see a picture representing that rather than an English translation.
So you're saying if I came across like a, got it. Let me just, I'll try something.
No, that's fine. Just move on. I'm probably the only person in here interested in this.
No, but let me just try this. So let me get the French word for tie is cravat, is it not?
I'm sorry, say again?
Well, I've got cravat here at the bottom of my screen, which is a French word for tie, and it doesn't have that in here, but let's just see if it does have the word tie in
on
it.
the end, I think. I can't read. It's so far away, I can't see. C-R-A-V-A-T-E. I don't know if you've got this spelled correctly. Okay. Yeah, you need an E on the end of cravat. If you have E there, what does it do?
Yeah, so it doesn't do that. It doesn't go back and forth. But what it can do is if you are a site, you can make it translate from a different language, so like from a French back to English. So you can do it that way. So you can do it in reverse. So you're saying that you have students that are trying to learn a different language, because they speak English natively, but they want to learn an international language.
Right.
Yeah,
so we don't like the translation. I mean, that's what we try to get away from. But,
yeah, so for this translator, we do tie into Google Translate, so it's more of a literal translation.
Okay.
I don't know, honestly, of a program that'll do a perfect translation back and forth between different languages just by highlighting it and doing all that because of all the the tenses and everything else that goes along with it.
Right.
So
okay, thank you.
Yeah, but that translator piece is great for the international students that are trying to learn in English. They can quickly figure out what it's saying or about what it's saying in their own language. The last piece in the reading comprehension that I will show here is the screen masking tool. And what screen masking allows you to do is some students benefit if you turn the screen a different color. So here basically maybe the white is kind of blinding to me. There are certain types of disabilities where that makes it very difficult. Or you can actually change this for students particularly that have ADHD issues. I can actually make this very opaque so I can block out everything else except what I'm looking at right now. So now I can concentrate here without seeing pop-up ads or other things coming up as I scroll down the page. So that's basically looking at the reading and comprehension tools. We finished that portion. Are there any questions about that first grouping of tools?
Nope.
Okay. One of the other tools, I'm just going to run a quick PowerPoint here to show you how to use it. I don't have it listed there, but I think for the folks in the room that are concerned with writing, it's good to see that there's this tool. It's called the Fact Mapper. It's located right here. And when I open it up, it basically opens up a place where I can, let me just go ahead and change my settings here. So it opens up a place here where I can say, I'm gonna be writing about government. I can basically click on a button and put in an icon here and then type in government. Then I can add legislative, judicial, executive. And I can continue to kind of build out what we call maybe a mind map here of my thoughts for this paper or for what I'm writing. I can bring in some visuals if need be. So now I've replaced them. And then I can take that document, organize it in different ways and say, well, my topic is government. That's what's up here. I've got executive, judicial, legislative. That's why I want to break this up. And then I can convert that into a Microsoft Word document. So I've basically taken how I'm seeing this in my mind, brainstorming into this fact mapper tool, and then when I click a button, it converts it to a Microsoft Word document in the way that I have formatted it. So government is my topic. There are my 3 subtopics, and then I've already started with legislative, given a couple subtopics there. So it allows students that struggle with the brainstorming or the organization of thoughts to visually map their thoughts out and then convert that into Microsoft Word. And I guess I'd ask anybody there who works with students struggling with writing, does this look helpful to those students, and are you using anything currently like this?
One answer is no. The second, not using something like that now, no. Helpful, I'm not sure. Other people in the room could also answer that question.
I guess possibly the question might be, if I ask it a different way, when students come to the Writing Center, is brainstorming or organization of content a struggle for them?
There's nobody here from the Writing Center today, but as I understand, students can work at 3 different stages of their writing, which could be including the mapping of the organization, or could be at the final stage where they're proofing their draft. So it depends on the assignment and the student.
Thank you for explaining that way. That's pretty clear, and that's what we hear from a lot of the writing centers where the students come in, and yeah, they've got those 3 different areas. The brainstorming is difficult. That's where that helps. Another area, and I'm actually going to show a quick video of how this works. If any of you are familiar with something called Dragon Naturally Speaking, or if any of you now use an iPhone or a Droid that allows you to kind of speak into it and it types as you speak, it's kind of a dictation tool. We have that built in here, and there's one of my customers up here in these parts. She gave a great video that she shared with her college students when they came in to say, here's how you can use this tool. So I'll show you this video, and you'll see kind of how easy it is to open this up and to talk and have it transcribed right into Microsoft Word.
Click Start. Click Microsoft Word. 1. OK. I am using the speech input feature on Read and Write Gold, period. This feature allows me to speak as it inputs my speech into text on the page, period. I am using a headset with a microphone that I purchased at a local store here in Bismarck for under $30, period.
I'll pause you there. I was going to ask you if you could tell where she's from, but I guess she gave it away with Bismarck.
What about commas, colons, other punctuation? You have all the punctuation?
Yeah, so you actually say comma or period or exclamation point, those types of things, and it adds it in. And that's why she said period there, but it's a great question. If you notice here, I mean, everything here has been spelled correctly. The other thing is, if you've used any of these kind of, like on my iPhone now for the last year, I've been able to speak into it, and it'll transcribe, my text, so I don't have to necessarily always type it on such a small screen. Same way, though, I say comma, and it puts a comma in. I say period, puts a period in. So students are used to using this type of thing on their phone, but to have it be able to transcribe right into a Microsoft Word document is great. And this is a very popular tool in a lot of our college campuses, simply because students that struggle with either typing or spelling, it becomes a really, really great tool for them to just get it from their mind onto the page without worrying about those things. Sherry, are you using any Dragon Naturally Speaking at Valpo now?
We have individual students who are using it, yep, and they have it on their own private or personal computers.
Supposedly it's on campus, but I've never found it since I've come here, so I don't know exactly campus-wide how it's being used. But a number of students that I talked to are using it individually.
And they see a lot of benefits with something like that, a speech-to-text program, we can call it.
Yes, and what's interesting is they all have difficulty then with, they speak it, it's on the paper, they think they're done initially, and then they turn the paper and the teacher's like, oh my goodness, what a mess. So then they realize I can't just say it, then I have to take the next step and edit it. And that's really kind of important for them to be doing that. So then they get used to doing that, and it works pretty well.
Great. Yeah, it's a great tool for so many college students because of that type of thing. And I'm glad you've got kind of some background on it, because there's a lot of different ways it benefits students, but we don't always know the true stories, until we hear from somebody at the college level. So very, very popular for those students. Another one I'm going to bring up here is the next one. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I do have a question.
Yeah.
For my students using Dragon, they have to train their computer to their voice. Because what that does is blocks out other voices, so if they're in a public place, it only picks up their voice. What about this program? Does it do anything like that, or they just use any computer? Do they have to have a microphone on the computer? How does that work?
You don't. In fact, I've used it plenty of times where I just use the outboard microphone on my computer. You can train it. I don't believe it's necessary. I don't think you have to train it, but the training is in there. So I could go to the speech recognition training on here. And I can train my microphone as well. So you're exactly right. What you want to do is make sure when you're training it, you've got the best results will come from a microphone, maybe a headset mic that has like some foam covering around it. And you want to have it 2 fingers out from your face and then 2 fingers down from where your mouth is. So in a good place, and train it in the same environment that you're going to use it in. All the same training techniques that you'd use with Dragon apply to this. And if you are careful about how you train it, it is very, very accurate, as you saw from Brenda there when she did it there. It spelled everything correctly, so it really becomes a helpful tool. Works very similarly to Dragon.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, the real beauty of this, Sherry, is when you have Read and Write Gold and you have it on every computer on campus, or students can download it to their own computers, they don't have to worry about where the license of Dragon is. You have this built in right there, and that's when I said in the beginning, so many colleges look to us to just install this, so they can only have to manage one type of tool like this that's got it all in it. Another tool when it comes to writing that's on your sheet there is word prediction. And I assume a lot of us have used word prediction or seen it when we're typing in like a Google search. But what we've done here is we've developed a tool here that when you're typing inside of a document, it's going to start suggesting to you words.
Today.
And right now I'm just going to type the sentence, today I walked to school. So notice I put in a T, and it knows that I want today. I kind of bumped it up to the top, and I'll explain why in a moment. But as I go down the list, it'll read it aloud to me.
Talk. Taped. Thanks.
If I don't know what the word is, I can click on the dictionary here. It'll pop that right up, and it's a talking dictionary, so I can hear that read aloud. Once
Today.
I find the word that I want, I just click on it, and it's going to pop it in. So notice here, I'm typing, today I walked to school.
Walked.
I've only typed in the T so far, but it already knows where I'm going.
To the school. Every.
So the reason why this is so beneficial, so many students need this type of software for the same reason we were talking about before, Sherry, where they've got it in their mind, but they just want to get it out onto the page, but they're not good spellers. Or it could be somebody who's an international student who just needs help in general with learning the English language. You're not going to get a word that comes up here that's misspelled. So the beauty here is if you're using word prediction to put it out there, you don't have to go back and use a spell checker or a grammar checker, because it won't give you words that grammatically won't work in that sentence in that place. So what we've done is we've scanned 20 million books that Google has scanned themselves that basically we know once you put in some words, we know what the likely next words are going to be, but it's also tracking your history. I use today I walked to school for every demo that I do, and because I do that, my computer's tracking it. It knows what words I probably want, so it bumps those up to the top. So I'll go a little bit deeper in this, but I want to pause right now and ask for any reactions to word prediction. If you've used it before, the benefits of this, is there anything, is there any reason not to use this?
I do have ask me a question and the words are not in the correct order, can they, if they're typing it in the incorrect order, is it going to change that for them?
I'm sorry, so you're saying in the incorrect order.
I don't know.
So like their sentence structure
Syntax.
is incorrect.
Yeah. Today walked I to school. If you were to type that and would it swap, would it say the subject, pronoun, and verb?
Well, you know, the beauty of using word prediction is you wouldn't put it in the wrong way in the first place.
You wouldn't, they might.
Yeah. No, what would happen then if you did that, you'd get the squiggly lines inside of, you know, the grammar checker that's built into Microsoft Word to kind of to take care of that if you had your grammar checker on. So, but the beauty of this is you don't have to spell. You can just go back, and I'm looking at our time here. I do want to make sure we get through it, as much of this as we can. So the Talking Phonetic Spell Checker and the homophones, great tools for checking students' work, but because no one here is from the Writing Center, I'm going to skip those and just quickly go to some of these web tools that are available in terms of helping students with study skills and with organization of information. So one of the more popular tools on college campuses, if I'm on the internet and I'm going to be looking for information, well, here's for me, yellow is, you know, maybe is all about Arctic patterns, and maybe cyclones is going to be blue, and look, there's some yellow over here. When I'm done marking up this document, this is a beautiful thing here, using these different colors to color code it, I click on this little pinwheel, and it's going to bring in all of my highlights into a Microsoft Word document, but organize them by color. So all of my blues are together, all of my yellows are together. It's in a Microsoft Word document, and it's got the bibliography information here as well. I know, it's really popular. So many college people, when they see that, say, boy, where was that when I was doing my dissertation? Yep, so, yeah, right? So that's a great tool. Another one is if there's words you don't know, I'll just go back to this, some of these words for kind of like pre-reading. You can look at these words, highlight them, click on what we call the vocabulary builder, and it's going to take those words. It's going to not only define them, but it's going to put a symbol in there and then give you a place to personalize it. So you've just really easily created kind of a study guide for words you don't know. And then the last piece here, I mentioned this before, really popular with college students. If you have, let's say, a textbook or something like that that you want to read, but you've got to go and run 15 miles, you can grab this text and you can convert it into an audio book. And what that means then basically is it's going to take the text, put it on my desktop. I'll just say that this is Becky's chapter 5 or whatever, and I'm going to save this on my desktop right now. So now when I go to my desktop, you get there. There's a little MP3 file. Really simply, I just drop it in my iTunes, sync up my phone, and I can listen to that chapter read aloud with my iPhone or Droid
Mood is
or
the
whatever.
river of life that surges within us, transporting near.
And I can change the settings and all that. So that's a really popular tool, and that's the end of that list right there. So any questions about the toolbar Read and Write Gold? There's the bells again.
Every 15 minutes.
Every 15 minutes. So what I'll just tell you briefly about the Google tool, just so you kind of understand what we've done with it. When you go into Google Docs, and this is a separate program, but basically when I go into Google Docs and I open up a Google Doc, you're going to see this set of tools, same tools from Read and Write Gold, a lot of them that I can use to read aloud the content.
History of Ireland.
I can use the word prediction piece, which is very popular. I can use, if I've got a word I don't know, I've got the talking dictionary, I've got the picture dictionary as well. I can use these all in conjunction with each other. I can highlight from here and extract those, the same as I just showed you from a web page before. So that's the first piece of that Read and Write program for Google. The second piece is there's a Chrome browser tool that allows students to just go anywhere on the internet and they can open up what we call kind of this little browsing toolbar that when I click on it, allows me just to click anywhere and it's going to read this aloud.
NDSU students, faculty, and staff have free access.
And we are going to be building all those other tools like word prediction, the dictionaries, into this as well, into this toolbar. And the last one that's probably most important for college students is when they're coming across PDFs that are shared through their Google Drive, makes it very simple for them just to open it up and use it. So here's that same PDF that I was showing you before, but I've saved it inside of my Google Drive and shared it. When I open it up now, because I've got Read and Write for Google installed on my account, I have the ability to have that PDF read aloud very easily just by clicking on the play button.
In this chapter, we describe the composition and functions of this life-sustaining.
You can also do all those same things. You can highlight and extract. You can use, for any of these words that you look at, you can use the dictionary or picture dictionary as well. You can bring those up. And you can also, the nice benefit here is if you've got something that a student needs to maybe answer, they can open this up and they can actually type directly into this PDF, which makes it really simple. So if I wanted to answer this and share this back with my teacher, I could do that very simply right here. Put my answers in and just share it back, and I can also print this aloud from there. So this is a really big feature for those students in college campuses because they're coming across so many textbooks, and once Sherry starts getting more of these textbooks in PDF format from Access Text and those types of places, you can literally just open it up through your Google Drive and access it instantly. So it's all built in and plugged in to your Valpo Google Drive account.
And is this the cloud version that you're talking about?
Yes, so that's basically that cloud version of, we took the tools and we put them, embedded them inside of Google. So does that, I know it's kind of a quick look at it, but it's the very same types of tools that you saw in Read and Write Gold, the desktop. We've just put them inside of Google, so they're installed there. And I know we're kind of running out of time here, so Becky did want me to touch just on the licensing cost. Do we have a minute to do that, Becky?
Sure.
Okay. So with Read and Write, the desktop version, you can deploy it, and we can have more of a discussion with the tech people if you want to, Becky, in terms of imaging it out to all the computers on campus. You can provide DVDs to the students so they can install it on their own computer. You can create your own thumb drive versions. And the newest thing now that a lot of colleges are doing is with either Blackboard or their learning management system, you can put it up there and students can download it from that page. So North Dakota State University, they have a Moodle page. They did this. But the difference here is they didn't call it a disability services software. They called it a homework helping software. And they installed this last August. And in 9 months, they've got 400 students that have already downloaded this from their Moodle page, which you could do the same thing with Blackboard. And is it safe to assume, Jody, can you actually load software up and students can download something from Blackboard?
We've never tried, but we can try.
Hey, if North Dakota can do it.
That's right.
And I love those people. They're great, but they looked at this and said, why can't we do this? And they went and talked to not just Disability Services, which was their department, ESL departments, the Writing Center, the same people that you kind of are looking at here, and the College 101 course, which is another big one. They said, when you see those students who you know are really struggling and all of a sudden they could be gone and drop out, show them this. They can download it to their own computer, and that's been a very effective way to build that professor awareness for a tool that can help those students. So it's a great effective way, but it's on their own computer, and that's the key. So in terms of the cost of this is the last piece of it. I checked this out today. The tuition cost for Valpo. Does anybody there know what the retention rate is, or I mean, is it something you're allowed to share?
It's about 86.
About 86.
I think.
And you've got 4,000 students, so 4,000, well, 400 times 4, whatever it is. Let's say it's a few hundred students. The tuition at Valpo is $40,000, and I think obviously that's a concern as well. That every time a student walks away, they're taking a spot. You know, they had to get accepted into the university, but also with them goes that tuition. The two licensing options for Read and Write Gold, and I don't think, Becky, you and I talked about this all the way, had we?
Nope.
Okay. Because I said, yeah, if you can save just one student from dropping out in a year, doesn't that make the program worthwhile? I didn't realize that that Valpo was so expensive, but I went to the University of Dayton. It's an expensive school, too, because it's a good school. The beauty here is for the Read and Write Gold desktop version, a single student purchasing it would be $700, but you can license the entire university and all the students' home computers, PCs and Macs, for $8,300. And on top of that, annually, it's a $1,200 cost if you want to make sure you have the most current version, which pretty much all of our college campuses do. Is that better than what you thought, Becky?
Yeah.
Okay.
When you started comparing the tuition over email, I started to get a little nervous, or a lot nervous, really.
Well, and that's why I asked if there's anybody, earlier today, is there a retention department? And, some colleges, because of their demographics, they do have retention departments. But obviously retention is just a big issue for everybody at any university, including Valpo, obviously. So to retain students for this cost, I mean, if you get just one that was going to end up leaving and you can help them enough, which happens all the time with this program, you kind of validate that expenditure. And it's pretty small price to pay. Read and Write Cloud, so this would be the Google piece that I showed you. That's an annual fee. It's $3,300 a year. And what we do basically is we turn it on for Valpo's domain. So every student, every faculty member, anybody that has a Valpo email address is going to have those tools available if they want them.
Is that on top of the 8,310, or is it different? No.
Yeah, so they're two different products.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, so the $8,300 is a one-time cost, and then the recurring cost for that to make sure you always have the current version, because we're usually coming out with a new version every 12 to 15 months, $1,200. And then the Google would be above and beyond that, so you could do it with or without each other.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
When you say requires domain, can that be a subdomain of the valpo.edu, or is that a separate domain?
That really is just so that we let people know if you're not a Google campus yet, you can't do this option.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Yep, so your Valpo is set, and that's why I was kind of happy when I heard Becky and Sherry talking about this at CSUN. Was we could go either way with this, or we could do both. Really, they're compatible, so you can have them both in the same computer. It's kind of up to you what your needs are.
The nice thing about the desktop version to me is that it would work with Chrome and our Google apps. It would also work with Microsoft and Blackboard and everything. The cloud version would be restricted to only working with their Google Drive and Chrome. So, it's more limited.
That's a good way to look at it, Becky. I'd recommend, if you're going to look at either of these, you do the desktop option, because almost everything you can do in the Google you can do with the desktop version. A few things like transcribing into a PDF you cannot yet do, but we're actually developing that. By the end of this year, we're going to have a new PDF viewer that's going to give you a lot more functionality in the desktop product. So, if I had to choose one road or the other, I would recommend a college campus goes with Read and Write. The reason that we're so strong with this Chrome thing, with the second option there, is our K-12 market. Those school districts, they go Google and they buy Chromebooks and nothing else, and so they can't install software on Chromebooks. You have to have it through the cloud. So that's there for them. The beauty is, if you have students that really want to get it, they could go on their own. It's $100 for a student for a year to use that, and we've got lots of college students that just go to the Chrome web store because they're using Google so much. That makes a lot of sense for them. So,
Quick question. If
Sure.
a student loads this onto their personal computer, the desktop version, and then they go to Florida, they'll still be able to use it in Florida, correct? Or only on campus?
and they go to Florida, did you say?
Yeah, for,
Like, say, spring break trip.
Oh, no, that's fine. They can go anywhere they want. If they're, if they are enrolled at the college, at the university, and they've got it on their machine, they can go to. Why stop at Florida? Go to Spain.
Okay. So they could use it internationally as well.
Sure.
Yeah, study abroad, if they go home.
If we had, say, a graduate program or some program that didn't want their students to use this, is there a way to limit who can download?
That's really up to Jody. And if you're gonna deploy it through Blackboard, then that's one thing. Maybe you only deploy it to certain students, or maybe you don't deploy it through Blackboard, and a student would have to be required to go either to disability services or something like that. So you'd have to limit it that way. And I guess maybe that goes back to the question of are there reasons why students wouldn't use this? So what might be a reason you wouldn't want a grad student to use it?
Oh, not me, but I know that there are some people who might think that this is extra help that they're not allowed.
That they don't deserve,
Yeah.
Could border on cheating.
It might enable them.
I'm just
Enablement.
wondering if there's a way we can appease them. So, but that helps. That really does help.
You know, the way that we look at the enablement pieces, and I totally understand it, you know, are we giving them too many tools? In some ways, the tools in Read and Write Gold, some of them like the MP3 creator are awesome for anybody. Anybody can find a way to use those. But true tools that, you know, are spelling things out for them, they're not necessarily assistive technology. They jump the chasm from an assistive technology or special needs type software to a productivity tool. And the way that we look at this is throughout the years, I think we're all familiar with closed captioning. That was originally developed, obviously, for people who are hard of hearing or who are deaf, but you go to a gym these days and you see the TV up there, and generally it's got closed captioning on it. Or if you're going into the store, you know, a long time ago when I was a kid, there would be a handicap sticker on the automatic door. Nowadays, they took the handicap sticker off. It's just a productivity tool. And probably the most recent example is, you know, you've got speech to text that's been around for a couple decades for students, you know, people that that can't type or have spelling issues and all that. But I mean, nowadays that's built into your phones. So a lot of these tools, you can look to assistive technology or disability services to see what's coming down the road in 5 years, because generally we develop it for people with special needs, but it just becomes part of the regular environment anyway. And I think a lot of these tools on there, they become parts of different devices. So students are going to be able to use these tools depending on what devices they use. This just puts them all in one place and allows them to use it in any format that they're in. So I don't know if that helps in the looking at enablement, but it's kind of like if these things truly are a crutch, anybody that's tried to walk with crutches that don't need them, you just drop the crutches and walk. So. Becky, any other questions?
Just a technical question. I know my colleague Ben wasn't able to be here. Can it be deployed through a remote app? So, you know, within our Active Directory system, can it run as a remote app on the server so that he wouldn't have to build it into each individual image?
You could do that. We don't recommend it as much. Are you talking more like an enterprise?
Yeah.
So we don't recommend enterprise anymore. The main reason, Becky, is our best new voices don't work with the enterprise deployment.
Okay.
So I think you could put it out there that way, but then students would have to, I think, download the voices themselves from a different site, and that can take a while. But what we should do is, as we go down the road here, I'd like to set up a time for both you and Ben to talk with our tech department to go through the different scenarios. Because I kind of throw those things out there and say, these things are possible, but depending on how you really want to image this thing out or enterprise it out, you'll want to talk to our department, because they've gone through almost every installation with people on the phone to walk them through the options.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Good job.
Yeah.
Thank you. Good job to you all as well. We thanks for your time, and I'm going to stop recording this now, Becky. I'll send this over to you. But if anybody else has any questions, please feel free to email me. Both Becky and Sherry have my email address, or John as well. We're happy to help you out, and you know, let us know how we can help moving forward. We're happy to set up a pilot if need be, or anything else you'd need.
Hey, Paul, quick question.
Sure.
Since you didn't get a chance to go over the writing before you stop recording, can you go over the writing and then send it over? That way we can at least show it to the people in the writing center?
Yeah, so I can tack it on at the end right here?
Correct.
Yeah, if folks need to take off, you can go ahead and leave. So.
Just a quick thing. Can you guys email me your thoughts about it, so when we put together the proposal, I can include your thoughts in it from Interlink and enrollment and Christ College share? Huh?
And I appreciate that everybody was able to be here. I know there's a lot going on. Yeah. Yeah.
Jody, still email me your thoughts, though. Oh, I'll write small. I'll write even smaller than that. That was my opinion.
That's a die-on.
Okay, so AH, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Google address.
It'll pull it up. Okay.
What's funny is
Yeah, so that's not one that's really is an easy one to get.
So Becky?
Yes, sir.
So you want me to go through do you want me to go through the entire suite of the writing tools now?
Yeah, that'd be great.
now, if it's
Well, here's the thing. Would it be helpful if I just sent?
That would be great.
We've got the writing. We've got videos that kind of explain the writing piece of it, that walk it through it.
Oh, well, if you've already got that.
Yeah, we've already got it. So what I'll do is I'll send you this, where it's got kind of, the whole Valpo spin on it. But then I'll send you the links. There's probably 1 or 2 videos that walk them through all the writing tools.
Okay.
Would that work?
Yeah, I think that would be good. Don't you, Gus?
Yeah,
Would that
that'd
work?
be good. I got to go give a test though, back. So I'll
Okay.
catch you guys a little later.